Actually, this AyushEHR Network /VT. AyushEHR.
Okay. Yeah. So, so if you can see, there are options like guest list current, guest list all. So we'll start from the very beginning. So like the way I said, we'll have to create an episode. So I'll just start with your name here. I'll type your name here. So we'll have to create an episode for you. Yeah. So if you can see, the software is trying to detect whether any episode is there or not with the same name. So since it shows no result being found, you can go ahead and create one new episode for you. So if at all there was an existing episode with the same name, it would have asked you to reconfirm, or a list of drop downs would have come on the left hand side. Pin code 641-108. Doctor, right? Okay. So it is again trying to reconfirm, and then we can scroll down and click on go ahead and create new option. So if you can see, we have successfully created one episode for you. Now we'll have to add on further details for you. So, once this person comes, if it is a direct walking, then the same procedure is being followed. It's just that you'll have to go and reconfirm their stay. So let's assume that the front office executive is first going to check for the room availability, right? So he or she will have to reconfirm which room is available and which room is not available, because according to that only they can allocate the room, right? To the concerned guest. So they'll have to click here, then AHA. Yeah, if you can see, once you search with the name of the guest here, it is available. Now the concerned person will only have to give the details, like for which service is the concerned guest visiting your hospital, whether it is for the day spa or nightly package or for the premium packages. Then you can also mention about the package, and there is a status option which allows you to give any option among these three options. You can select whether the concerned patient is just planning to visit your hospital, or have they confirmed their stay, or have they directly checked in. So confirmation is when they paid 50% of the amount already, and the remaining 50% will be paid during the check-in. So I'll give the option of check-in when they directly walk in. And here is the place wherein the concerned person would be checking for the guest, for the room availability first, because here they'll have to give the option of which room is available or not. They can also add the details of the check-in date. So I'll give the date of today, time, and also the checkout date. Then the concerned person can also mention the booking source. So it can either be a direct through website, the concerned guest would have got to know about your hospital, or it can be through the agents, which can be anyone, travel agent, or it can also be through the references. So here I'm giving the option of direct. Then the finding source can be mentioned, whether it is through internet that they have got to know, or whether they are just revisiting. The type can be mentioned. Travel agency name can be mentioned. So again, this can be customized as per your sources. Then the front office executive can also capture the details, the reason for the visits. So it can be for therapy, or stress management, health and fitness, or anything. So here I'm giving the option of therapy. and you can also choose the options. Also, the planning preferences can be mentioned, and if at all any special requests are being made by the guest or by the patient, that can also be mentioned here. Then the concerned executive can also mention about the reminders. So there might be guests or the patients who might be needing some kind of meals or some extra yoga and meditation sessions. So just for their reminder, which is for the hospital's reminder, they do this. So you can also mention if at all anyone is accompanying you, that details can also be mentioned here. So here I'm just mentioning a random name.
No, we put some nice image to green here, and the green color.
Hopefully created an episode for you. So this is how the front office executive will get to know which all room is occupied for which all guest. So since we have already mentioned for you room number 5, it says that that slot is not available for anyone else. Okay. And once you click on that, it gives you a detailed information about the package which you have selected, the check-in date and time, etc. Okay, so now we'll go back and fill other mandatory details, which is like the episode. So since we have already created an episode for you, this needn't have to be filled, but by clicking on that, you'll be able to see the detailed information. And the registration form. This form is to be filled by the front office desk or the front office executive. So they'll collect the basic details of the complaint, the activity summary, the food preferences. If they are undergoing any kind of allergies, those can be captured, and I'll show you how it works. So definitely the patient will be visiting to your hospital or to your resort because they are undergoing some issues, right? So he or she will have to enter the complaint. So here I'm giving the example of a knee pain. So once you type knee, all the diseases which is related to knee pain will be available in your screen. So this is because of a special feature called normal CT which we have it in our software. It is nothing but the clinical terminology used by the doctors all over the world. So we have that option available in our software. Then you can mention the importance of it, whether it is the chief complaint or the associated complaint or others. You can also mention since when is this patient suffering this? Is it like is it for days, weeks, months, or for years? You can also mention about the description, about the inconvenience, what they are facing. Severity can be mentioned, whether it is mild, moderate, or severe. Progression, yeah. So you can complete. Then you can also mention about the diagnosis. So again, when you type knee, all the terms which is related to knee pain will be available. And you can also mention about the diagnostic certainty, whether it is suspected or confirmed. Then since when are they suffering this? Severity can be mentioned. Again, description and completed. So I'm just quickly filling all this so that I can take you through all the features. And you can also mention about the food preferences so that based on this, further you can ask them to change if at all any changes are to be needed in their diet. Based on these informations, you can make the changes. Any description and recommendations that can also be mentioned. Then is the allergy. So there are certain chances that the current problem which they are undergoing might be associated with some allergies. So right now for the knee pain it is not, but I'm just showing you all the features so that you'll get an idea in which all ways our software can serve the purpose. So if you type the dust, all the allergies which is related to dust will be available on the screen. Criticality can be mentioned, and the reactions can also be mentioned. Category can also be mentioned, and complete. So if you can see what all things we are updating here will be available on the screen. That is towards the left hand side, it would be available. So what all things we are capturing on the right hand side, it is getting filled on the left hand side. So there are three options available like email, printout and download. So normally print and download option is being used for the internal communication purpose within the hospital or within the resort, and email is for the guest. So AyushEHR enables their guest or their patients also to have an access to their reports. So this email option will enable the concerned person to send a copy of it to the patient. So once you click on this email option, uh, it will let you send it to them. Now I would take you through the next feature, which is the health form. So a health form is to be filled normally by the paramedical staff, which can be a nurse or somebody else who's working in your organization. So they'll capture the next details like wellness, the feeling of purpose, quality of spiritual life, energy level can be mentioned from the scale of 0 to 5. Is there any climate impact because of which they are undergoing the current problem? That can be mentioned. Social wellness can also be mentioned. So if you can see, our software is letting you capture the minutest details. The major objective of AyushEHR is not only to capture the clinical data of the patients, but also to give a personalized care. So all these minutest details will help the hospital or the resort to give a personalized care towards their patients. Mental stress can also be mentioned from the scale of 0 to 5. Any triggers are, if at all they are undergoing any kind of triggers, that can also be mentioned. Sleep movements can also be mentioned. So in Ayurveda, it is really important for you to capture the Nidra details. So even sleep timings can be mentioned. Sleep experience, feeling on wake up can be mentioned. Sleep position can be mentioned. And even the bowel movements can also be mentioned. So if you can see, the software is letting you capture all the minutest details. Next, they can also mention about the family history. So there are certain chances that they might have got that disease because of the genetical thing also. So if at all any of the family members were undergoing that, even that can be mentioned. The problem which they had been facing or they are facing can also be mentioned. Their name can be mentioned, and since when are they suffering this, or for how many years or months they had been suffering it, can be mentioned. And if any clinical description is to be made from the paramedical staff, that can be mentioned here in the box. Again, substances used can be mentioned, like what kind of substances do they use, like caffeine or alcohol, tobacco, those kind of details. And period of use, for how many months or years they had been using this. Frequency can be mentioned, status can be mentioned, and details of use can also be mentioned. Yeah. So again, even this form can be emailed or taken a printout or downloaded. Next comes the wellness consult, which is only to be filled by the doctors. Not everyone will have an access to this wellness consult, so only doctors are allowed to fill this form. because here if you can see, apart from complaint and diagnosis, there is an option of medications as well, which only doctors are allowed to prescribe. So in medications, if you type any of the terms, so right now all the allopathy medicines and drugs will be available on the screen. But again, this can be customized as per your hospital's requirement. So if at all you have your own pharmacy and you want us to include your medicines, so that can be done from our end. So we are open to customization. You just have to provide the list of the medicines. Yeah, so this makes your job more easy because you needn't have to sit and type each and every medicine's name. So you can just type the medicine name. The dose can be mentioned, for how many months or weeks they have to consume it. The course status can be mentioned. Directions can be also mentioned. So there are certain medicines in Ayurveda which needs to be dissolved in water, right? So those kind of little directions can be mentioned here in the direction box. You can also mention about the date from which they have to start consuming the medicine, and when do they have to stop and complete. So there might be even more than one medicine which you intend to prescribe to your guest or patients. So again, you'll have to do just one thing. You'll have to come here in medication and prescribe it again. That's how you add more than one medicine. Then even you can mention about the clinical notes, which is again to be given only by the doctors. So that can be typed here. And again, vitals play a very important role. So even that information is to be filled only by the doctors. Alright. Okay. So again, so if you can see, whatever we have mentioned here is available on the left hand side. Since we have already filled complaint, diagnosis, allergies, family history, activity summary, I didn't took you through these features again, but it is just the same. Okay, okay. Next is the daily progress note. So once a patient comes to your hospital, doctors will always have an eye on them, or they'll always have to keep an eye on them, right? Whether there is any progress or not, in order to understand, so that they can make changes in the treatment method, and they can also plan accordingly. So this feature enables you to have a daily check on your guest or your patients. So here you can mention about the treatment plan. So if you can see, all the treatment which is related to Ayurveda is available here. So the treatment which you are intending to give to your patients can be mentioned here. Uh, so I'll just select one random service name, and here you can mention about the quantity or count, and when have they started the treatment, that date can be mentioned. The durations can also be mentioned, and if at all any description is to be given, that can also be mentioned in this description box. And in medication box, you can mention about the medicines. So you might be intending to give or prescribe any medicine before starting the treatment, or after the treatment gets started. That can also be mentioned in the medication box, and form can also be mentioned. Then the complaints, since we have already filled that form, it is just the same again. Of the treatment. We can also mention about the progress note. Since the day they have checked into your hospital, since then till now, is there any progress or not? Those kind of little notes can be filled in the progress note. And you can also mention about the action taken. Here the action taken. So a timeline view enables you to see the overall episode which you have created. So next time when Parthasarthi is revisiting your hospital for the treatment, you needn't have to go and create an episode once again. You just have to come here and click on this episode option, and fill all the necessary details once again, starting from the base. So this view will enable you to understand how many visits they have made in your hospital overall. Because each time the same guest is going to revisit your hospital, you just have to keep creating a new episode. But the registration form will remain the same. Yeah. And this is the case sheet of this particular patient. So a particular guest or the patient can have an access to this case sheet, but more than them, this is beneficial from the hospital's perspective because it will have all the details related to their past history, their current status, the investigation or the lab test which you have made them do or which you are intending to do. That can be mentioned here. The orders can be mentioned and the notes. Any special notes is to be given, that can be mentioned here. So again, this will help a particular doctor to understand the case in a better way, in depth, and accordingly they can make the changes in the treatment plan. Important features are there, which I will definitely quickly take you through that, like the Ashtavida Pariksha, which is again important from the perspective of Ayurveda. So it helps you to capture the details of Nadi, Mutra, Mala, Jiva, Shabda, Sparsha, Trik, Akriti. So if uh, so, it is really important when it comes to Ayurveda. These informations are to be captured by the doctors. And also, when it comes to Dashavidha Pariksha, you can mention about Dyusham, Desham, Balam. So these details can be mentioned. So since I have no much deeper knowledge about Ayurveda and the terms, I'm just quickly randomly selecting. Okay. You can also mention about the general examination details, and these informations can also be captured. Systemic examination, diagnosis, since we have already filled the form, it is available on the screen. Food preferences can be created again, which we have already created, so that's why I'm not filling this again. But you can also mention from the doctor's perspective, you can fill this form, which is the food habit. So here is the place wherein you can suggest them or you can prescribe them to eat what you intend to prescribe them. So you can, if at all any diet plans are to be given for the particular patient, that can be done here. First, you capture the details from their end, and then you make the necessary changes. So you can also capture the details for breakfast, what do they eat, for lunch, for dinner, for snacks, and food type, frequency. Comes the investigation. So if at all you want your patient to undergo any kind of lab test, that can be mentioned here. So for example, you intend to ask them to do blood test. So once you type blood, all the terms which is related to blood will be available here. Result date can also be mentioned, and the status, and complete. So orders, again, medication orders and treatment plan can be mentioned. So since we have already mentioned that, it is available on the screen. Any special notes from the doctor's end can also be mentioned here. So if you can see, apart from all this, there is an option of summary. So this gives you an overall figure of the information which you have fed in each form. Yeah, so once you click on this knee injury, uh, you will get a detailed information like the problem, the severity, everything. And so this is from the perspective of the patient management. Now, when it comes to the hospital or the resort, you require a lot more informations to be added, right? From the business perspective, it is really important for you to know what is happening in your hospital so that accordingly you can make the managerial decisions or the budgeting decisions. So here in master agenda, you will get the information about the people who have checked in for this particular day. So once you click on that, you'll get a detailed information about at what time what therapy is being scheduled for the current person. So what I'm going to do here is I'll come here in the common activities and add the treatments which I am intending to give to you as a patient. So if you click on service class, you'll be able to see sessions, treatments, and common. So sessions will be according to the sessions which the hospital intends to give. Treatments, definitely Ayurveda treatments, and common activities include like yoga practices or the breakfast. These are really common when it comes to the hospital or the resort. So here I'm giving the option of treatment, and you can select which treatment are you intending to give. Naturopathy, Ayurveda treatment, massage, or beauty treatment. Service name can be mentioned. Again, this can be customized as per the service which you provide. And AyushEHR lets you add more than one service. So, if at all you want the particular guest to undergo two different services, you just have to click on that plus option and add the next service name. Scheduling date can be mentioned, time, duration time can also be mentioned, facility can be mentioned, and also the therapist name who's going to do the therapy. So AyushEHR also enables you to add more than one therapist for the same services or for different services. So you'll have to click on the plus option again and complete. So if you can see, we have successfully added the activity, and only when you fill this form will it reflect here. So once you click on this, it will give you an overall idea, which is the session which the current guest has been assigned with. You can also mention about the session. So here another specialty is that you can add the amount. So when it comes to the amount, that can also be mentioned here. According to the package and things, you can modify it.
All marketing companies are you. Content can be. Usually, searching one paper code also. You have to download the pricing.
So if you can see here, once you add those details, you'll be able to see at what time this particular session is being assigned to which therapist also. So you can also see the feature of cancelling the activity and rescheduling. So if at all under any circumstances, if it is getting rescheduled, you can give the option of reschedule, and you can mention about the reason for because of which it has got rescheduled. And if at all you want to cancel the activity, that can also happen. Next comes the pickup and drop facility. So this feature would be available only for the drivers because they are the one who has to perform this task. So this feature may not be available for every other person who's working in the hospital. So here you can mention about the name of the patient to whom this feature or this facility is being provided, the scheduled time, the service name, description, staff name who has to perform this activity, and the status. So my activity enables the current or the concerned person to whom you have assigned the task to know which all activities are being planned for them. So once you click on that, you will be able to see in detail. And you can also have three options available. So once a therapist is done with the therapy, they can either give the option of complete, and if at all it is not happening, they can either give the option of cancel or reschedule. Only a person who belongs to the management side will be able to see these features like all activities, all feedback, staff scheduled, TV screen reports, and dashboard. So all activities enables a person from the management side to see in a glance what all are the activities which is happening in the resort for that particular date. So once you click on that, you will be able to see a detailed information. And they can also do the same thing. Either they can give the option of complete, cancel, or reschedule. See the feature of staff schedule. So this enables the particular person from the management side to understand which all staffs are available and which all are occupied. So based on that, if at all any activity is being rescheduled and you'll have to assign someone else, based on this report, it is easy for the concerned person to assign. And then comes the reports, which is again important from the management's perspective in order to make the necessary managerial decisions as well as to plan the budgeting. So definitely a data is required in order to come to a conclusion or to make the necessary decisions, right? So here in the staff, once you click on that, you'll be able to see the staff name, the number of activities, and the group activities which they have done. So accordingly, if you are planning to give any kind of incentives or bonus, based on this data, you can do that. Then even you'll get an overall figure about the facility, the activity which has happened in total, the activities by class. So this graph will help you to know which session or treatment has moved more than other services, and even which episode or the name and the status can be seen. So here you can get an overall idea about the stay period and which room was being allocated more number of times. You can also see the data which is needed for the bed occupancy. The report is available here. Room occupancy details, package details, geography. So this geography status will help you to know from which region are you getting more number of guests or patients coming to your hospital. So based on that, if you have any tie-up with the travel agency or with some other external source, this data will help you to come to a conclusion whether you need to continue with that service or not, or any kind of money decisions are to be made. This data will help you to go for it. Then guess by month. So here this graph will help you to know which month had more number of patients or guests visiting to your hospital. And guess by age, which is again important from the AyushEHR's perspective, because you might be knowing the major challenge that Ayurveda is facing right now is validation. These graphs and figures enables you to do that. Guess by stay duration can also be seen, and these are the features which reports enables you to understand. Dashboard gives you the live 360-degree view of the entire activities which is happening in the resort or in the hospital. So here you'll be able to see which package has gone in more number of in a much way in the count form. You can also see which type of guest or the patient has visited your hospital uh, on a more ratio. By gender also you can see a graph, guess by source, geography, guess by age, and today's activity can be seen. check in and check out. Details can be seen, activity by class, treatments, Ayurveda treatments, and even if during the stay, if any of your guest or the patient is having their birthdays, that can also be seen here. So this is how AyushEHR helps you through all the features. And not only that, once you fill all this form, the data is getting saved, right, in the web server. So the next time the same patient is revisiting your hospital for the treatment, you can just search with the name of the guest. So for example, I'll just type Ram. So if you can see, there are options available on the left hand side. So all the terms which is related to RAM will be available on your screen. And this is how the software tries to reconfirm whether it is the same guest or not. And if not the first name, you can also use the last name or the email ID or the phone number of the guest. Because there are even cases wherein the first and the last name can be similar, but the phone number or the mail ID cannot. So you can also use that. And also, I would like to take you through one more feature, which is the notes. So, if you click on this notes option, this note option will help you for the internal communication process. So, for example, if you want to arrange for a lunch for the guest, you can just type arrange lunch and tag the concerned chef's name. So, like the way I have already mentioned, in a hospital there can be multiple accounts, starting from the driver, chef, everyone. So, since they would already have their own account, it's easy for you to communicate. So, you just have to type the name of the chef, and the notification will be gone to them. So, if you can see, we have already left a note for the concerned guest. There are options of home page which will help you to refresh. Also, a question mark is available on the screen, which will enable you to see three options, which is of release note, roadmap, and ask question and give feedback. Ask question and give feedback. If at all while using our software you come across any issues and you want our technical person support or help, you can just mail that to us, and within 24 hours you will get a response. So you can also give your feedbacks. So if at all you want us to improve any of our feature, or you want any new feature to be added in our software, that can also be mentioned through mail. And earlier, if you remember, I had asked you to fill all the basic details. It is for the same purpose, because there, when you mention the mail ID, we also enable you to send a copy of your guest, or the clinical note to your guest as well, or to your patient as well. So it can only happen if you feed those options. And settings is for the people who are from the admin or from the management side. So here you can make all the necessary changes, or whatever feature is needed from your hospital's perspective, that can be added, or whichever you find not to be useful for your hospital purpose, that can be removed. So here there is an option of package. So these are being updated from our end. So this can be again customized. So once you are on board, our team will get in touch with you to do all the technical things, and or to do all the settings. So this is what the features of our software.